Welcome to the Tribe Membership Show.
Welcome to this episode of the Tribe Membership. So if you've ever struggled to get more people into your community or your membership, or you felt like you're doing all the right things on social media, in your emails, maybe on your landing page, but people still aren't joining, they're still not coming, this is the episode that you need to hear, because today we're going to be talking about the number one thing that actually drives membership and community growth that most people overlook, and that's your messaging. And I brought someone on who's built for the messaging. It's Rick Tielemans, the other half of the dynamic duo behind the Tribe Secrets book, and of course now the Cult Creators. While Mike focuses on the back end, we have Rick, who is the front end messaging master. And today we have him on to help us and others understand how to craft your messaging so that you can attract and draw the right people that can stay and pay forever. Rick, thank you for being on this podcast. I appreciate you.
Funkster, always a pleasure.
Rick, by the way, is a couple things. Number one, Rick is one of the two that are responsible for helping me grow the Over 40 Alpha Brotherhood and others as well. But Rick, I do want to say that I do miss you in our Ask Funks. I used to love the one back and forth that we used to do on the Ask Funk. I still do Ask Funks, but I do miss you on. I just want to let you know.
It's not the same asking yourself questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you got AI now.
We do. Yes, I do. But you
can clone yourself and ask yourself questions.
I could do that. Huh. All right. Mm-hmm. Let's not get off topic. Okay. Let's talk about, how did you become the kind of messaging and attraction specialist? Like, what was like that origin on why you really wanted to focus more on messaging and getting people in?
Tribe secret number one, have an origin story. Right. Yeah. Good call. So, I mean, it goes back to when we were probably 16. And that's when we realized, like, oh, you can just sell stuff on the internet and not get a real job. So that's what we wanted. So we went to a stores online. They were teaching drop shipping. And so we didn't realize, like, we realized drop shipping wasn't our thing. By 18, we realized digital marketing was where we wanted to find our freedom and not get a real job. So that's what started us down this path of learning how to sell stuff on the internet. So we never had to get a real job. But, digital marketing, internet marketing, that's a big world. So, I mean, we tried everything. We were building websites, we were running ads, we were doing SEO, we were like every corner of internet marketing we tried. But I mean, you can never get away from copywriting, because you have, like, every product needs to be communicated in a certain way. And we realized, like, everyone has that problem. So I figured, I also just, like, Mike got more into the back end, I got more into the front end, just because we needed a division of roles. So I just started owning more of the words. He started owning more of, like, the behind the scenes tasks. And so I've just, like, developed copywriting over the years. But more and more I've realized, like, that's the one thing people suck at. And more importantly, when it comes to building a community that people want to pay and stay, it's like people don't buy in. People don't buy unless they're bought in. Like, they might buy once, they might try a trial, but, like, if you want their credit card on subscription every month, that requires some real emotional, psychological buy-in. But most people don't know how to get people bought in. So words are fancy, but, like, it's the strategy and the foundation behind the words, behind the funnel, that's really going to matter.
Okay. So, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's one of the biggest hurdles for everybody, I think. Well, not everybody, but 90% of people who have memberships, communities, digital marketers, etc., is the copywriting, right? The messaging. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you lean into that is huge. You talk about buy. I like that when you say people don't buy, they buy in. Who were your mentors? Like, who did you kind of gear your copywriting around? Was there one person? Was it a bunch of different people in order to create your own style of copywriting?
It's a great question. I don't have anyone that comes to mind specifically, but I mean, like, Russell Brunson was the king of frameworks for helping us understand some things. Ben Settle had a really good, philosophy and positioning around how to create your own corner of the internet. So I think, like, just kind of stealing parts I like, but I think it ultimately comes down to authenticity is going to win every time. So the more you can be, the more you can express your own philosophy and personality, like that's what people buy into.
Right. Okay. So
Or
that's the
else you're just
buy-in
like trying
part.
to, that's the buy-in part, right? Like whether you're B2B or B2C, your e-com, you're like high ticket, it's all P2P. It's all
Right.
person to person. So people don't buy stuff, they buy access to you and who
Right.
they can become. So yeah, the more human you can be, the more personality and philosophy you have, the more they understand like what they're buying into.
That's a huge thing that you just dropped there, because I find that when I go to different people's like sales pages for their membership or what have you, it's literally all about what they offer. Like right from the get go, it's like, here's my membership, here's everything I offer. This is about me, and there's no real like communication with the person who's actually coming in to join. How does someone get over that? Like what that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. That I'm not sure if that's what you see, but how does someone get over the fact that they got to talk a lot less about them and more about what they're offering?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a balance of both because ultimately you are trying to sell something. But again, that's where I always come back to like, what are they buying into? Because people don't want to buy, they don't want to buy information, right? They have the robots to give them all the information they need. Nobody wants to sit on a course or a coaching call when they could be doom scrolling TikTok, right? So people don't want stuff. So that's where it's people buy who they are or who they want to be. So when you come into like when you're trying to sell something, when somebody comes into your sales page and their subconscious brain is saying, I don't want you to buy. Like it's looking for all the reasons on the sales page not to buy. So that's like we have to seduce the subconscious and get it. We have to work with it, not against it. So most people, when they're selling stuff, people hate to be sold. So the subconscious, like, oh, they're trying to sell me on something. Like so much friction, so much security guard and red tape going up. So that's where we want to convince the subconscious that we are the same. If you can say like we are in the same tribe, share an identity, then the subconscious says this is probably for me.
Right.
And
Okay.
so I like to think of offers in like three parts of like getting subconscious buy-in. And now I feel like I'm on a tangent. I don't really remember if I'm answering your
No,
question, but when it
you
comes
are.
to selling something, yeah. So we'll call it an offer. And most people have an ordinary offer. An ordinary offer is selling stuff. So they have like, these are all the components of my offer that I'm selling. These are the value stack, right? You're getting like $1,000 worth of stuff for 27 bucks. It's like, cool, but you're still selling stuff,
Right.
information, transactional. We want to make it transformational. So that's where, yeah. So the three things your offer needs to get subconscious buy-in is they have to know we're the same. So whatever shared identity you can find, because like even runners, if someone is marketing something to runners, I'd be like, hey, I'm a runner, but they're marketing to sprinters. I'm like, that ain't me. I'm more of a long distance weekend warrior kind of guy. So if they speak to the guy who wants to put in like 20K and go get a beer, that's me, right? But if you can say like as specific as possible, like this is who we are, then the brain be like, okay, because it's super lazy and it's built for tribal psychology, then all you have to do is like convince it we're the same. And they'll be like, okay, this is probably for me. That's enough to move forward into the next, like, okay, where are we going together? So most people don't have a very desirable or specific outcome. They'll say, this is like everything you get, but you're like, okay, but what does that stuff do for me? If I apply all of it, what's the best case scenario I can get? So with you, like the over 40 alpha, then at first it wasn't very clear as to what they get other than, you know, all these great workouts.
Yeah.
But why? Oh, they can lose weight, but now you're in a category of weight loss, which is now you're competing against Ozempic, starving yourself, every other fitness person, every nutritionist, every doctor, you know, put a band over your stomach, you know, there's a lot of easier ways to lose weight. So we had to narrow it down into a specific outcome, and that's the alpha zone, right? When you have like this specific testosterone and body fat percentage, now your body is burning fat on autopilot. That's what they really want. They're going to feel like a beast. They're going to feel like an alpha because they're in the alpha zone. Like that's where we're going with the components of the offer. So now they're bought into like this future destination, this like transformation. And we're all going on this mission together. So it's not just like this isolating little thing where it's like most fitness things are pretty isolating, but this is like, this is who we are and this is where we're going together. Now you got that brotherhood effect. Now you got that buy-in. So then Yeah, so they need a desirable specific outcome that has to be higher value than what you're selling, right?
Right.
If you're selling something that's like only worth 20 bucks to them, it's going to be hard to even get 20 bucks from them.
Right.
So yeah, that's where transformation, you can't really put a price to that.
No.
So once they know who we are and where we're going, then it's how do we get there? And I feel like a lot of people understand, like they don't know how to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
So that's why everybody comes across very similar,
Mm.
Especially in the coaching space. There's like, even in fitness, there's only so many ways to throw around a dumbbell. But yeah, the brain is looking for a reason to buy. Well, the brain's looking for a reason not to buy. So we need to get around that by saying this is a unique methodology, a unique plan. This is how we get to this destination, different than how everybody else is doing it. So especially people who like resell courses or, you know, talk about the same plan, like ketosis, for example. There's like so many different courses or products or whatever that can put you into ketosis to lose weight. So it's like even just rebranding that name is a way to tell the subconscious, like, we've never tried this before, we've never heard about it before. Because if it looks similar to something they've tried or heard of, then the brain has information to say, this is irrelevant to me. We know this isn't going to work. Like, it's looking for really quick reasons to say no. So if we can say, you don't know anything about this new plan, but it's worked for me and these people to get to this promised land. Now, not only are they like, they have no reason to say no, but they're bought into a new way of doing things. You're differentiating yourself from everyone out there who's also promising this outcome. And you're opening a curiosity loop in their brain that they're like, what is that? I've never heard of that. And the only way to really understand it is to pull out their credit card and look what's on the other side.
Right. That's huge. So the three parts we have is, first, it's the same identity that everyone's doing this. Everyone's together. Everyone's the same type of person, same interest, on the same journey. Second is, where are we going? So what's the transformation look like at the very end? What does this transformation look like? And finally, it's the, how do we get there? What is this unique method that we're going to use, something that you've never used before? Because that is, you're totally right. I find that is definitely one of the key objections is, oh yeah, no, I've done that before. Or like, oh yeah, I've tried that before. Even with our sleep challenge, like we just finished a 4-week sleep challenge, myself and Nick Lamb, and we're going to open that up into a membership. But when we promoted it, everyone thinks that this sleep challenge is the same thing they've tried. Oh yeah, I've tried melatonin, I've tried the sleep mask, I tried all of the 7 tips to get better sleep, I tried that. But this was totally different. This was about foundational and the relationship. And so what we need to do is go back to our sales page and focus on those 3 parts, because we didn't do that. It was kind of like, okay, we got a sleep challenge, blah, blah, because we didn't really realize that people would be tapping out, like kind of finding, oh, no, I've already done that before. I've already tried that. No, but this is totally different. And the transformations and the testimonials that we're getting are insane. Guy who's hasn't slept for 30 years. He's literally branded himself as a horrible sleeper, is now getting incredible sleep in just 4 weeks because of his relationship. So that, I think the reason why I'm bringing this up, because you just hit it on the head with the 3. I even know this, and I didn't even write the same way.
You can't read the label from inside the bottle.
Right. So I want to kind of workshop something with you, if you don't mind, using these 3 things. If you don't mind, the workshop is, basically I'm gonna just speak to a specific industry of empowerment. Okay, so there's this industry of empowerment. I want to empower women. I want to empower people. I want to empower business people. I want to empower fitness, whatever it is. I want to empower them using whatever it is. I want to give them the power to change their lives using whatever it is. And I find that all of those are just, it's such a broad, and like there's no substance with the word empowerment, because what does that actually mean? So when someone comes to me and is like, okay, well, I've got this sales page, and what do you do? No, I'm empowering women who want to lead in business. Okay, so I'm gonna pretend that I'm that person, and I'm gonna start by asking you these questions. I want to empower women to, and there's no disrespect, could be men or women. This is just somebody that I'm thinking of right now. I want to empower women to be the best leaders they can be in their job or work, employment. what is wrong with this whole message at the beginning? What's happening here? Why are these people who are in these industries struggling to get people to join their communities, even though they're leading with community? Or we've got a community of other women who want to be empowered and want to lead in the workspace. Help us out here. What are we doing wrong?
Okay, well, I mean, first example, if we go back to those three parts,
Yeah.
if you were saying this, which I know you're saying it doesn't
Okay.
matter about gender or whatever, but
Yeah.
like just to run with this hypothetical,
Okay.
you know, why would you cater to women if you're a man, you know?
Right. Yeah.
For some, because there's a lot of dude fitness guys who only cater to women. And I've always thought like, because the brain wants to find people who look, sound, you know, value the same, like everything similar as possible. That's how the brain is wired for tribal belonging. You know, we are the same, so we do the same things. So they want to see themselves in your shoes. They want to see themselves in your case studies and your testimonials. And if you're a woman and a man is trying to mansplain what to do, there's automatic friction.
Okay. No, I'm a woman. Pretend I'm a woman. Pretend I'm a woman. I'm actually a woman coming to you. Yes.
Okay. Yep. So then the other layer of that is, okay, so we're women in the workplace, but that's also like every woman is in a workplace. So that's not very specific to like, we need our messaging to relate and resonate. And so like, because people are busy scrolling, then we need to get them to stop to say like, this is me. So women in the workplace isn't specific enough. You like call out men over 40, still very, people think it's a niche, but it's still very vague, because just because you're a man over 40 doesn't mean you're going to stop and look at this ad. Right. So then it's what type of women in the workplace. And we can go back to the start of your origin story, your hero journey, and be like, what made you go down this path in the first place? Like there was some real void value, some real struggles, something you needed to shake shit up and change in your life because of some certain something you didn't have or something you wanted to have. So whatever that is a clear indication of like who we are specifically, because we value the same thing and we want the same thing. So women in the workplace is like, well, there's something they're missing that they're looking for. And it's not empowerment, because nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks like, I'd be a lot happier if I had empowerment today. So that goes to, so when I'm looking at these three things, it's also like how you refine your perfect like tribe niche. Because just because we're the same doesn't mean we all want the same things. Like just because I'm a long distance runner doesn't mean I want to buy this long distance running shoe. But that's where we layer it into like, so they need to want the same thing. So if we're running with empowerment, nobody wants that. So you're already shooting yourself in the foot. So we need a more clear example of who we are and what we're trying to get out of this. So what is that why? Like going back to the story is like, I wanted to be like the first female leader in the company. So that seems like something that's probably pretty common out there, is like women feel undervalued because it's all male leadership. So they want to break that glass ceiling, right? Okay, now you're giving like, I mean, I just got goosebumps. So somebody was like, you want to be the first female leader? It's like, yeah, you want to break that ceiling? Now we've got something they can really buy into, which is empowering.
Mm-hmm.
So like by having that big mission, then you're empowering them because you're giving them reason to strive towards something. Because again, the brain is lazy. It doesn't want to do these things. It's wired for comfort, not change. So we need to give them a reason to change. And so that's where like that bigger mission is. And the more you can paint that big mission of where we're going together, then where was I going with that? The less it matters what you're actually selling, right? So most people think like the content, like fresh content in my membership, or like good coaching content in my course and my back end, like that's what's going to make people get results. That's going to make people want to stay. I just have to have good content. It's like everyone has good content. That should be like bare minimum. It shouldn't matter what you're selling as long as like the mission is strong. Everything inside is just a means to an end. Right. So yeah, then the third part is like, how do they help women empower women in the workplace? Then that's where, you know, you need a unique methodology.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So the word empowering is probably the word that needs to be deleted. And finding the specific type of work woman in the workplace as opposed to just women in the workplace. I think the person I'm thinking about, she has many years in a specific industry, like I think HR. And so with all of the years that she's had and people she's seen and whatever, she realizes there are certain things that women need in order to be empowered in the workplace. But it's still not a clear enough message to get people to stop scrolling and to understand that it's the same type of person. So I think that's great that we got to really self-identify. Maybe it's women in maybe even specific niches that want to lead, or maybe, you know what I mean? To really narrow it down as opposed to just like every woman that wants to lead, because like you said, different industries are different, right? Like even different workplaces are different. You can do certain things in one type of work industry than you can in others. So I like the fact that really narrowing down that identity, and then the transformation is so important, painting that picture, because I know that on this page, it was all about what we're going to give you, what you're going to get, the content, like you said, here's the content, here's what you're going to get. This is what it's worth. This is what it is. It's like, okay, enough about the content, man. I can just use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is and get all the information I need. They'll actually put a whole plan together for me. So what else, what is that transformation I'm going to get? And then how do we get there? What's the unique method? Because I did ask this person that question. What makes you different from the other 10,000 other women who want to empower other women? Like, what's your method that's going to be different, right? And I think it's been radio silence, just because I think all of those things had to be thought out. But I agree with you. I think that's really important, because once you have all of that, you don't really need I mean, the selling, you don't, I mean, it sells itself. The transformation, how you're going to do it, and the identity sells itself. Don't you think?
Yeah, you need less fancy words and funnels if you are just saying the right thing to the right person at the right time.
Right. So what's the difference between a message that like informs and a message that converts? Like, what are those big difference aside from the big three? Is there anything else?
I mean, we like to focus on like foundational frameworks rather than tactics. So there's like so many conversion elements that you can look at, but we don't like to get too detailed into those. I think fundamentally, like if you don't have those three levels of buy-in, then people aren't going to buy. And if they do, they're not going to stick around, because we don't want customers who buy once. We want customers who buy everything and pay and stay for life, right? So that's where we focus so much on like, what is the foundation of buy-in? Which I only realized like last week that this is what we're really trying to solve for, that shared mission that gives buy-in. And that's just what most people don't have. So yeah, there's a lot of like conversion tactics out there on how to get more people through your sales page. But I used to love that stuff. And I still do, as like someone who's really into psychology, but there's so much you can learn that it's just not my sweet spot.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that the framework is really key because it keeps people focused. So when you're building out this framework, do you start with the identity piece and then move into the next pieces as everything starts to unfold?
Yeah, I think they all have to connect to each other, because if your identity is shifted a little bit, then the result is shifted a little bit, and then the way you deliver it probably might need to tweak a little bit.
Hmm.
Because if you look at like, so these 27 tribe secrets, we wrote the book and whatever, and so then it's like, yeah, the coaches, it makes a lot of sense for coaches, especially with a community. And so like last year we built a Facebook group, and we were pumping ads towards like getting coaches into this group to teach them the tribe method, and it just felt like it wasn't working. It was just a lot of struggle. And so that's where now we have reverted back to customer calls, because we always had tribe method and customer calls, which are ultimately the same thing. It's just one is more for coaches who want to build a tribe, and then customer calls was more for marketers who want to learn the psychology of attraction. So it's the same methodology. It's just branded differently towards a different audience who wants a different thing. So now we've come together to create cult creators. So the result is a customer cult, because that sounds like what they're getting, right? A fan, like a community of loyal paying customers. It sounds like what it is, and it sounds attractive. And but then like marketers, it's like all the creators and coaches have to be marketers. If you have something for sale on the internet, you have to be the marketer in your business. And marketing sucks. So we're like, how, instead of like spending so much, we spent a decade in digital marketing trying to figure out how to get better at marketing.
Mm.
And then it wasn't until we got fired from our biggest client we had a rock bottom realization that like you can never get better at market. Like you can't learn everything in marketing because it always changes.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to learn how to make our clients more marketable,
Right.
so that like the easiest way to attract a customer is to be attractive, to be more attractive to the customer. So
Okay.
that's what we focus on, is being more attractive to the customer so that they come to you.
Okay, so let's talk about call creators. I think that's great. I remember you guys having that, and you know, that piece of the side of your business where you're focusing on helping people be more marketable and more
Yeah.
attractive. Who
Mhm.
would this be for? Like, what types of people are this for, and what are some of the methods that you use to help them become more marketable or more attractive?
Yeah. So the nuance there is like creators, which is a big pile of people. So we were thinking content creators, but there's a lot of content creators who just share their lifestyle because they're trying to affiliate stuff. And then there's people who create content because they're trying to resell other people's stuff. And it's like those people don't have their own journey, their own story of discovery. And that's what is like the biggest, that's why secret number one is the origin story, because that's how you define like who were you at the start of your journey, because that's who your customer is right now, about to go on a journey. And there's so many ways they could go that you want to save them the hassle and the shortcut. Like your story can solve all these pieces of buy it, because it talks about where you went, where you got, how you did it. But someone who's just a content creator, they don't really have that because they're just starting and they don't really know what they're selling. So there's all these like digital marketers out there who are 18 to 25, and all they know is what's inside the one course that they bought that they're reselling to other people to become a digital marketer. And it's such a circle jerk, it drives me crazy. So not just content creators, but the ones who have to sell themselves. Because if you're selling your own products and programs, your own coaching and courses, then like that's where you have a story, you have a unique method, you have something you accomplished, you just suck at communicating it. And if you sell yourself, you probably sell yourself short, because we all get in our own way, because our subconscious is designed to keep us where we are, not where we want to be.
Yeah, for sure. I find that's one of the biggest mistakes I see is them not actually sharing their story, right? They stay away from, well, how did you get here? Oh, you don't want to hear that boring. Well, that's not boring because that's the transformation that you have. So how'd you get there? Um, and that's the biggest mistake. That's what I see. You know, a lot of people, why do you think people shy away from that, sharing their story, knowing, because you're not the first person to say that the story is your story, share your story, right? Like people say that all the time, yet there's still a lot of, you know, people who want to build communities or tribes or content creators that never share their story. Why do you think that is?
Either they don't have one, or they don't dig deep enough to find the real emotion behind it. So
Mm,
it's just a highlight reel. Like a lot of fitness people, for example, they're like, look at me, look how strong and cool and jacked I look. And you can look like me if you pay me this amount of money. And it's
right.
like their story is more just like the highlight reel of like, I was this and now I'm this. And
Mm,
you can make that huge gap too if you just pay me money. It's like
right.
there's not really a story I can buy into there.
Mm,
Because yeah, people need to see like, what is this ecosystem they're buying into, and what is my role in this ecosystem. And if
mm,
the story is all about you, there's no room for me. So
right.
that's why we want the story to be more of like a, I did this so that we like I could create this for us. This like
Right.
all about who we are together, so that they understand their role in the story. So I think most people don't tell the story because they don't know to, or they don't know how to, or
Yeah.
they don't have a good enough one. But it's like you really got to get to the nuts of the emotion.
Mm,
And like Donald Miller built a 8-9 figure business around this one story framework,
right.
the
That's
hero journey.
okay. Yeah. Which is huge. So part of this same shared identity is telling your story, right? Like making sure, are there any other elements? And because the shared identity piece, people may be asking like, okay, well, how do I find that? Or what are other pieces that will help me to determine who I should connect with? Because like, for instance, women powering women, let's go back to that one. Like if I had a story of how I use specific things that I did on a daily basis and worked, you know, I don't know, a little bit different than everybody else. And then I became a CEO of a company because of this specific method. And then I left that company And I did it again using that same method, and I became another CEO, and learned around the way. Now I've polished up this method to help women become CEOs with my method, right? So would that be would that be telling a story? I just came top of my mind. Would that be a story that I could, because that probably would help me to uncover the shared identity, like the people who I need to target, right? Based on that story.
Yeah, I think ultimately, because there's 12 steps to the hero journey, but I don't think all are that important. I think it's like as long as you can indicate where you were in a place that resonates with where they are. So I had these struggles and symptoms that you probably do too, because we are the same. And like I went down all these different paths, and you don't have to. So you probably don't have to say all of them, but you should speak to like, here's what's possible for you if you don't buy from me. Like a lot of years of struggling and trying to figure it out. But then ultimately to get to the point of like, people are just trying to understand how you got there. Like, why does your business exist? So the biggest thing we're trying to find here is like the discovery of this methodology. So that's the real origin of discovery, is like the methodology, like why does it exist? Because you can say like I have this method, but they're like, okay, and it works because like, look at me and look at these people, and they're like, okay, but it's like, but how did you find this method? Like, did you just take it from someone else? Did you like, how did we get here? So people just love to know the why behind things.
Yeah.
So
And that makes
that's the
sense to
important.
me. Yeah, sorry, that makes sense to me because when you're talking about that journey that you went on, I get it now when you say that the three uh the three parts of that framework are kind of intertwined, because
Mm-hmm.
your origin story, which will help you uncover the identity of the people who you're going to be targeting, will also have the unique method, which is the how do we get there part of your framework, right? So you're going to be like, oh yeah, and this is a method, and the method's called the empowering women method. I don't know, whatever it is, right? The CEO bad gal method. I don't know what it is, but it's a
Sold.
specific method. Yeah, specific method. But that came from that origin story. That came from my transformation as a woman who went into to become a CEO. And so I can see how all of those things, play a part in the framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and everyone has so many layers to their story. So
Mm,
it's like you probably got to beat this framework over and over again, because like you had a story of discovery,
yeah.
but then you have another story of testing your method on yourself with
Right.
your crypto.
Organizing
The,
pneumonia. Yes. Yeah.
exactly, right? So that wasn't how you found your story, but that's like really relatable to prove your method works.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like a second mountain, because there's like your first mountain is like finding your method, creating some level of success and bringing it back to the world. But then there's always a second mountain of like becoming that leader and finding that next level of success. So that's where you can look at both of your stories, but then like, everything you want to promote inside your story, like there's probably a story, like a variation of that story on why we work out this way,
Mm.
but it's probably a little different on why we eat this way. Like all of your pillars probably have a nuanced version of that story, or at least they could. And then like everything you want to promote and affiliate to your brothers, same thing.
Yeah, no, you guys were instrumental in messaging that, right? Because at the beginning when we started, I had turning 39 to 40 and all of the shit show that happened with me, girl leaving, testosterone low, addiction, partying, strip joints, like all of those things. And then realizing it was testosterone, boom. So, okay, I got to increase my T levels. I got to change up my workouts, my nutrition, everything else. And then having all of this success, but not really focusing on men over 40 at that time, right? I was just kind of doing my own thing and strength and conditioning, but kind of having that in my back of my mind of how I did transform. But then when I got crypto organized pneumonia and I got prednisone, I'm like, okay, this is the time I can test this. Like I literally have to test to see how fast I can recover using all of these pillars. Because at that time I was going to join. And then it wasn't until you guys came in that you're like, no, 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 there's two stories here. There's two stories. There's your first one for sure, because that was kind of like the first realization about testosterone. But then this second one is just as important as that one, because now you're testing that unique method. So you guys were so key in me developing that messing
And
to
your
do
first
that.
story really paints to like the 39-year-old, the 41-year-old, and they're like, all right, my body's changed. I need to change. And I don't know where to go or who to follow or what to do.
Right.
So like you didn't only have 40-year-olds, you had some 30 somethings
Yeah.
because they already felt the effects of like turning 40, sarcopenia, all these things that your story speaks to. But then like you can also specifically cater to people who are feeling some type of like they probably don't have pneumonia, but they have something that they're fighting that's holding them back from all the results they want, like especially if they're on medication that kills their testosterone. So now you can speak directly to people who are like even taking medication that kills testosterone. If you want to go real ninja,
Yeah.
again, because like the over 40 crowd is very crowded.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those helped because that picture of me holding my prednisone is so key, right? It's just like, oh,
Yeah, you got a clear enemy.
Yeah, clear enemy, prednisone, prescription pills. Yeah, that's an incredible strategy, and it definitely worked. Talk to us about like when you're creating your message, who do you talk to? Because I find a lot of people just talk to the masses. Should you be talking to one person in your messaging, or should you be talking to the masses?
I like to have one person in mind. And that's what most people say is like have an avatar you're speaking to. I just think most people make up their avatar. They choose their niche, but us cult creators, us tribe leaders, we don't choose our niche. We find our tribe, right? So that's where it's like you should have a very clear understanding of who that is because like it was you. Right. But also like there's going to be someone that you know who you're speaking to. Like I got a guy in mind for cult creators. You've got like probably a handful of people that are like your diehards that you know when you're writing something you could speak to. Right.
So the word you and making sure that you're speaking to one person as opposed to everybody is going to be the key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of people get caught up in like people pleasing and professionalism and what they should say. But like, if you're ultimately writing to like who you were, then it's like, it should be communicated in a way that like is exciting and fun. And you would want to buy it. You would want to belong to this thing because you do. Right. But like the more you try to people please and make it sound, and that's what I was feeling with the tribe method is like, we're trying to be these like professional gurus to coaches. And I already felt like there's so many gurus out there talking to coaches. My whole feed is full of ads targeting coaches with like some hot model for getting all these leads. Yeah. I'm like, I can't promise 300 new paying customers this month like this guy can. Right. So like, if I just say, I'm a guru who helps coaches attract clients, then like I'm screwed. Right. Because this guy can do it for like way cheaper and way more effective because he knows how to run YouTube ads. Right. I don't want to run YouTube ads. I want to teach people like the frameworks of success behind building a community who like that can attract the right customers. So therefore, like I always come back to positioning. Okay. Talk to how much you want to charge really comes down to, and like who you want to attract. It's all positioning. So that's where like we were positioned as gurus helping coaches like build a community. And it's like it felt really limiting because I didn't feel like a coach. Right. And we didn't have our own community. Like we were starting one on Facebook, but we didn't have 90 Day Tribe yet and stuff like that. So it all felt very people pleasing, kind of fake. So that's where now it's like we're just building out loud, building our own cult. Yeah. And that can like get to $1,000 a day. So now we have a mission, and I feel like I'm just talking about what I am already doing. So it feels very natural, and I can be as permissionless and authentic as possible. Like now I'm trying to get into my villain era because I spent my whole life people pleasing and trying to say the right things. And like, especially doing lead generation for coaches in our 20s, like, you know, we got in trouble for saying the wrong things sometimes. And it's like, oh, I hate being told what I can and can't do. Totally. So now I'm just trying to be like ruthless because the best way to attract the right customers is to repel the wrong ones. Right. So that's where like, if we're already leaning into the word cult, it's already got a dirty association. Totally. So anyone who's offended by the C word, not my people. Right. Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's go a little bit deeper into repelling the right and repelling the wrong and attracting the right, because a lot of folks are afraid. Right. They're afraid if they show too much. They're afraid if they say the wrong thing. If they're afraid that they don't please, they're not going to attract everybody. But it's not about that, right? Talk about what you just talked about, repelling. And that's the problem. They want to attract everybody because they want to make as much money as possible. And so in their scared little brain, it's like, I need to have a bigger TAM, a bigger total addressable market that I can cater to, because more people equals more money. But it's like, we found that's the opposite, because if you, like the classic saying, if you try to market to everyone, then you end up marketing to no one. Because again, like if you try to go vague with your targeting, then it's not going to relate and resonate, and they're not going to stop scrolling, and you're never going to have the chance to sell anything, because they're never going to get, if you can't get attention, you can't get attraction. So yeah, that's where people go way too vague. And so if we look at Daraj, he was one of our 9-day tribe guys. Yeah,
Totally,
so
totally.
he had a pretty tight demographic in terms of like helping artists sing, like license their music, which a lot of people aren't teaching artists how to license music to Netflix and Hollywood essentially. But he was doing pretty good. And then when we told him to get suspiciously specific on who you want to target, like especially if you have a community, like the more similar everyone is, the more you can say the right things and not worry about saying the wrong things. So he went down to specifically hip hop artists. And like now he's getting 88 cent leads on Facebook. And he got like 80 new customers when we relaunched to his existing list. And it's like, it just works a lot better. And people feel like they can engage in this group, and they feel more bought into the mission, because everybody is now a hip hop artist, not just an artist.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And, you know, I think repelling the wrong people is really important, because you end up, yeah, you end up losing, hey, you're losing them, you offend them, right? There's all this, I'm offending these people, I'm losing people. There's a lot of non-cohesiveness in your community, right? And you want that cohesiveness, which I'm assuming is the reason why you have to repel all of the wrong people, even though they may, like for instance, for the brotherhood, I don't go after men who are 40, 50, 60, who are already in the gym. You know, those guys who are already on TRT or in the gym, or they're just, you know, they do all the strength. Like, I don't, you know, great for them, but I don't, that's not who I go after. I go after the guy who's literally struggling, like hasn't trained, and like Akram just joined and he hasn't trained in like 20 years, right? So he's just like slowly going through the program. People who haven't who've been trying other things but they never work, like they're at their bottom, right? They're obese, or they just had a blood pressure, cholesterol, whatever it is. Those are the guys that I'm attracting. And so it makes sense, because if you have even one person in your membership who can cause a little this is, so I don't know, a little drama, it blows up the whole thing. Like, we had that in mind. One person, how can one person literally almost destroy an entire community? That's what happened. One person almost destroyed it. It wasn't, we had to kick, not only once, kicked them out twice. We kicked them out twice.
Yeah.
The first time was enough, because I didn't understand what was happening. And then when I had enough people come to me and say, hey, this person is not cool, whatever, kicked them out.
He's not one of us.
Not one of us, 100%. Doesn't live our creed, doesn't follow the values, like literally the opposite. And so kicked them out, and then came back. And I was like championing the comeback. I'm like, oh, he's back. Okay, they're back. It was brothers. All right, let's go. This is gonna be great. And literally 2 days later, I was flooded, like 10, 15, all, you know, Craig Morfitts, everybody, right? Oh, dude, I'm gonna leave. Literally saying they're gonna leave if these two stay in. And 2 days later, I had to like literally ban them. So I tell that story to say that literally 2 people can destroy a 3,000 member community in 2 days if they are, you know, if they're not who you want inside that community, if they're not part of the tribe.
Yeah, gatekeeper effect. It's easier to keep them out than kick them out.
Right. Talk about that gatekeeper. Was that like the club example?
I mean, it's like you're saying, you can't build a strong community with the wrong customers, because like one guy can throw off the whole tone. Because like he was the right guy at first. He wasn't training. Yes. He wasn't in the gym. Right. He had like a full-time blue collar job that kept him eating wrong, not working out. And then, you know, he's got all the symptoms of an over 40 guy in his position. Right. But then he became a gym bro. Totally. After a year of like following your workouts, he became alpha, but like not in the way that an over 40 alpha operates, which is for the community, the collective. He became a different kind of gym bro that was pushing his own agenda. And yeah, he muddied the waters.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I love that. So making sure that we attract the right audience and not to be afraid if it's a smaller audience, but more direct because we have to stop the scrolling. So hey, let's talk about what platforms people should be using in order to get that message out. So they have the message on their Google Doc or sales page or whatever they have, but how do they get that message, whether it's ads, whether it's organic, and what type of messaging should they be using in order to get people to attract the right audience to their page?
Yeah, and I'll caveat this by saying we're new to the front end game again because we spent our 20s helping other people behind the scenes, like getting leads, converting clients, all these things. And it sucked. It was really hard. So we spent like the last 7 years kind of behind the scenes building communities where we didn't have to be the guys that were in charge of leads and customers. But we spent that time studying success frameworks. Like ultimately, we just wanted to know how are these people successful and the rest of us have to struggle. So that's where like we've modeled these frameworks. So now it's like our invite systems that we're doing now for ourselves are modeled on what the successful people are doing. So it's still new to us, but it's based on what is working. So our invite systems are three things. So you need a tribe offer. So like we talked about, like an ordinary offer is selling stuff. A tribe offer sells a shared mission that they're buying into. So that's where you have the right person and a desirable achievement and a unique methodology. And so once you have that frame of orientation, those three things create a frame of orientation in the brain that says, I understand the mental map of your ecosystem on the other side of your checkout, and I know my role in it, and I'm bought into that. So that's a tribe offer. That's what gets people bought in. And then we turn those elements into an offer doc. So just a Google Doc. So we don't have to have all these fancy words and funnels and branding and all these things that can really add up costs, add up time, delay your launch. It's just get these components into a Google Doc that says, this is who we are, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. And then a little more detail on like timelines and outcomes because people want to see like the journey and where they can expect to be, right? The brain hates uncertainty. So we need to give them enough certainty that it sounds like they understand without getting lost in the weeds. So we're not saying like you get all this like this many modules and this many videos and this many hours of coaching and like they don't want that stuff. They just want to know where they can be at what timeline. And then we tell them how to sign up.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there with and go back to the timeline because I think this is really important. A lot of times people think that they shouldn't put that kind of thing in there. Like, oh, well, I'm just telling them everywhere and everyone's different and maybe they won't get to the timeline in 3 months or 6 months. I don't really want to put that there because then I'm promising something. How do people get over that? And I think it is very important to show people what the timeline is. So talk a little bit more about that piece if you can.
Yeah, like when we were building out your 12 months, then it's like we can't tell them like not everyone's going to lose 10 pounds by month 2. But we can say like month 1 we're going to focus on this thing because I know this is what you need most based on like where you're at and who we are. And so like we have your 12 months mapped out, not specifically outcomes. Like by 12 month we have a desired outcome that like, you know, big achievement we're rallying towards, and we're thinking 12 months is the runway that we've mapped out. And it's going to be different for everybody, but like this is what we're doing together, and along the way these are what we focus on.
Right.
So they can understand like, oh, if I just do this at this point and this at this point, that's going to stack and compound to get me to the result. Whereas like if it's money oriented, then you can probably say like, yeah, when we do these things, you're probably going to get your first $1,000 and then we can make it recurring by like this time period.
Right. Okay. So I think that's important. I love the way you just laid that out because you're right. People want to know what they can expect. People aren't stupid. So they know that, okay, it may not work 100% for me by this time. I know that, but I just want a guideline to see what is possible during this transformation and what points do I get, what could I get certain things, certain outcomes. And I think that's important to put on that Google Doc as well, because that just shows the transformation, shows what could happen. And people aren't stupid. They know, okay, it may not work for me in 3 months. I may take me 6 months, but still I know at which points I should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And like everybody has a different level of buy-in. So not only is everybody in a different place, but like some people are going to try a lot harder than others. So it's not always your fault if they don't get results. Most of the people, like everyone's in their own way, which is also why we need to brainwash our customers into taking the action that we want them to do. But that's more of a back end point. So yeah, in terms of invite systems, and it's like, what is the tribe offer that they're buying into? And then you have a Google Doc to communicate that. And that tells them how to sign up, whether it's just a link to a checkout, if it's low ticket, or an email to like how to move forward for high ticket, or an application funnel, whatever. So then you have the offer doc that does the selling for you, because we hate selling and people hate to be sold. So we just invite. We just send the right people to the offer doc and it does the selling for us. And so then we have propaganda, which is how we find our tribe. Yeah. So that's the front end marketing to say, like, this is how we attract and find our tribe. And then the right people are going to want to know more. And so that's where we just send them to the offer doc to do the selling for us. So in terms of propaganda, that's where like that methodology, that unique plan that you have for people, then like, what is the overview? So ours is 3 steps inside the tribe method or the cult creator model. So I have a video overview of, this is who we are, this is where we're going, and this is our plan to get here. And this is what cult creators do. And so that video does the selling into like the first digital product where they learn how to build their tribe offer. So in terms of propaganda, have a video that explains your methodology, and then have content that speaks to their problems of not having it, or their desires, if like their goals and desires that they can have if they, like make $1,000 a day, here's how, or struggling to get customers, here's what to do about it. So you can look at the model in terms of where they are and where they want to be. And these become content hooks to drive them back to, here's how to fix it. And then that goes to the Google Doc offer to do the selling for you.
Well, okay. So there's definitely a framework. And it's a good one. I mean, once you have that framework in there, that foundation, I'm sure whatever content or whatever you do will drive them to the offer doc. But you need that tribe offer, you need the offer doc, you need the propaganda, the invite, and the 3 parts of your messaging, which is same identity, where are we going, and how do we get there? That's awesome. Mike, Rick, sorry, jeez. Thank you so much.
Happens every day.
I know. Thank you so much for being on this podcast, buddy. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. How do people find the call creators? Are there any last words you want to leave with people?
Don't build a product, don't build a community, build a cult, build your tribe.
Love it.
Right? That's what people are wired for. People aren't wired to buy, but they are wired to belong. So we can just leverage that tribal psychology that already takes over their brain, that tells them what to buy and who to buy from, to make them want to buy from us. So don't go spending all this effort trying to attract customers. Focus on making yourself more attractive to the right customers. Awesome. And so cultcreators.com will take you to an overview of our model. It'll link out to all the places. Okay. So cultcreators.com.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for being on the podcast. And we'll talk soon, right, brother?
Always. We'll see you online.
Thanks for tuning in to the Tribe Membership Show. If you're ready to take your membership to the next level, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Want to dive deeper? Visit www.tribesecretsbook.com.